always, my name is Anne, by the way. Anne Bauleke. It's always a privilege, I'm aware, to sit here with you. And I'm always a lot happier when it's over. So I'm gonna read the excerpt from the bulletin that I have on the bulletin, and I think it's the same excerpt I had on the bulletin a year ago. Although it's not the same talk. It's a different focus in this talk, but I have been spending a lot of time with this particular fascicle of Dogen for a year. And when I say I was spending a lot of time, it's not like I have 3 hours a day studying or anything. But these things, these teachings get inside you, and they just, keep coming up and showing new things. So this is it. This is the beginning of the fascicle, Dogen's fascicle on continuous practice. On the great road of Buddha ancestors, there is always unsurpassable practice, continuous and sustained. It forms the circle of the way and is never cut off. Between aspiration, practice, enlightenment, and nirvana, there is not a moment's gap. Continuous practice is the circle of the way. This being so, continuous practice is undivided, not forced by you or others. The power of this continuous practice confirms you as well as others. It means your practice affects the entire earth and the entire sky in the 10 directions. Although not noticed by others or by yourself, it is so. So, welcome to Rohatsu. It begins tonight, and in case you're unaware, it's a week-long practice, a week-long silent retreat. It takes place in the building and online. And it is to celebrate Buddha's enlightenment. So I'm curious, how many here are participating in the building? Okay. And online? Some of you online? Okay. So, Buddha said something like, I'm paraphrasing, telling us that I with all beings awaken. So when Buddha attained the way, he did that with us. We all awaken with the Buddha. And as Dogen says, we are all on the circle of the way. we are all practicing. In other words, we are all practicing all the time. There is no one who is not practicing. There is no one who is not practicing. Even our friends, Putin and Trump, are practicing. Because practice is life. Practice is life. So in the spirit of continuous practice and our awakening with Buddha, I want to suggest that we are all doing Rohatsu this week. And that great clicking sound you hear is the greeter locking the door. I'm just kidding about that. But Rohatsu happening in the building looks a little different than it does even online, and certainly with those of us who will be going about our usual lives. And it also doesn't, because we will all be sitting, walking, a little bit of talking, listening, eating, sleeping. We'll all be living our lives. There's a schedule. If you're in the building doing Rohatsu, there's a schedule. But outside of the building, we also have a certain kind of schedule as well. And the important thing is, in the spirit of continuous practice, that we make an effort that when we eat, we just eat. Now, when we walk, we just walk. When we drive, we just drive. And when we sleep, we just sleep. So we are making this effort to live with full attention, as we do all the time in our continuous practice. But in the back of our mind, it's Rohatsu. So that may come up or not during this week. So I think of back in the beginning when I first started doing Rohatsu. And I remember Mark Turbeck was the Eno, and he would give these the orientation talk about the logistics. What would go on during Rohatsu. And he always gave a lot of emphasis to how supported we were during this week. There was someone cooking meals for us. There was the schedule that supported us. There were the teachers that we would meet with. There was the ritual that supported us. There was the timekeeper, the Dogen, ringing the bell, ringing the han. And I arrived here kind of rugged individualist, I would say. So this notion of support, didn't really, I didn't get it. I thought it was a lot of propaganda, actually. But then with time, with sitting, it started to occur to me that, oh yes, sitting with people, sitting with other bodies in the room is easier than sitting at home. It is, there is support. And, gradually with practice, with showing up, it just kind of, I don't know how it happens, but it just, that sense of interconnection starts to rise from within, kind of an awareness of the truth of our interconnection gradually. So it is true that those who are in the building, those of you in the building, are supporting each other in your practice, and you are supporting the people online. And the people online are supporting the people in the building during Rohatsu. And you are all supporting us out here going about our usual lives as we are supporting you in the building and online during Rohatsu. Everything, the squirrels, the trees, the sky, in the spirit of continuous practice. We're all supporting each other, and it matters what we do. And a little later in the fascicle, Dogen tells us that, in fact, the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas need us to practice. They require our practice in order to continue their practice, because practice doesn't end. We're all in the circle of way, and we are practicing our practice. The Buddha and the Bodhisattvas are practicing through us as we practice. So we are all doing Rohatsu this week, even whether you think about it once you leave here or not. So there are just a couple of other points I want to offer, and one is from that excerpt I read, just pulling one phrase from that. The phrase that practice is not forced by you or others. Practice is not forced by you or others. And that seems a little like a koan to me, because it certainly takes effort. It takes effort to show up, whether you're showing up in the building for a Rohatsu or whether you're showing up before your cushion at home. It takes effort. It takes effort to hold the posture. It takes effort to sometimes to stay on the cushion during any given period, whether you're in the building or alone at home. Because even alone at home, we develop this commitment to practice, and it would be unthinkable. It would never enter our mind at home to get up off the cushion before the bell rings. And just living requires effort. Not in the building, but just living this week of Rohatsu, going about our lives, requires effort, as it does any week, any day, any hour. So I started to ask, what would it look like if we carry into this week the phrase, practice is not forced by you or others? So what is this forcing? I only have questions to ask you. I don't have any answers. What is this forcing? When does it come up? How does it feel in the body? The subtlest forcing, how does it feel? Where is it coming from? What is it? Forced by others. What's that about? And what is it that we're attached to? Off the cushion, I realize how much energy I expend thinking about whether I want to do something. Do I want to go swimming? Do I want to walk? It's awfully cold. Wet. And I think of Suzuki, I think it was Suzuki. I confused Suzuki and Katagiri on some of these things. But I think it was Suzuki who talking about his students who were trying to learn a morning practice, getting up and sitting. And his advice was, when you wake up, get up. And how many times that has served me in so many things. You know, that sort of no gap. Just do it. So it's sort of taking the deliberation out of things, just playing with that, taking the deliberation out. And when we don't force something, what happens? What are the alternatives to what seems like forcing or pushing ourselves? What are the options? What's left? And we might, in not forcing, end up seeing things as it is, or something else. So there's just one other thing. And for this, I am referring to Simone Weil. Her last name is spelled W-E-I-L. Simone Weil. She earlier in the fall, she came up in a talk that Norman Fisher gave, and I hadn't thought about her since first I'll tell you who she is. She's a 20th century French Jewish Catholic convert, mystic philosopher. I first heard about her in college when I was into the existentialists. Seems like a lot of people who end up in Zen were at one time or another into the existentialists. But I most recently had thought about her during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, when my two nephews were both in Iraq, Afghanistan, and I was terrified. So I was reading all kinds of literature, all kinds of war literature, war poetry, fiction, short stories, novels, and nonfiction. And that's when I came across the essay by Simone Weil on war. She herself had served in war, so she knew little of what she was talking about. And there's really only one line that stuck with me. She said, "All war happens far from hot baths." And that was all I needed to know about Simone Weil, to know that she was okay with me. So she wrote this fairly short essay on attention and will. Attention and will. And I thought it was quite relevant, quite relevant to Zazen and therefore to Rohatsu. So I want to preface this by saying that in Rohatsu, at least in my experience, there's a kind of a cycle to the sitting. The first day, it's all the busyness about the world still, and it takes the first day or two to kind of just slow down from being out in the world. And then somewhere after that, you're a little sort of in the building, you notice that there are these other people here, and they're all pretty damn annoying. They're not breathing right, they're not walking right, they're not eating right, and certainly you are the model of Rohatsu, and why is everyone else being so obnoxious? And then that kind of falls away, and then here you are, and with the little self, the little internal self, and that takes something. That's not easy to face. So Simone Weil, although not talking directly about this, she's not talking about Zazen, but she has something to say about this, I think. So this is to quote her. We have to try to cure our faults by attention, not by will. So we're sitting there, and this is this is not just in Rohatsu. This is any sit. You know, our little selves, our sorry little selves. There we are, and we want to fix our sorry little selves. The things that come up. But we have to try to cure, that's her word, cure our faults by attention, not by will. Because in Zazen, of course, we're not trying to fix anything. We're not trying to fix, we are being with, we're opening to. The will controls muscles. The will is for moving objects. It's not for inner work. The will tightens and stiffens. Pride is a tightening of this kind. Attention, on the other hand, avoids stiffening. It's more an inner supplication, which, taken to the highest degree, is prayer. Now, prayer is not a word we use around here all that much. We don't talk in those terms because it suggests deity. We don't talk in those terms around here either so much. But it seems to me, isn't Zazen a kind of supplication? You know, we sit opening to the universe, opening to our small selves, a kind of surrender. And what does it matter if there's a deity? We're all this slurry of aggregates. She says attention presupposes faith and love. And isn't that how we sit? We come to the cushion presupposing faith and love. To simply desire. And not try to accomplish it. Referring to the object of our desire. To simply hold our desire. Because we wouldn't, without desire, we wouldn't show up, would we? So we sit, not trying to accomplish it. And then this is her quote. Attention alone, that attention which is so full that the I disappears, is required of me. I have to deprive all that I call I of the light of my attention and turn it on what cannot be conceived. So I'll read that one more time. Attention alone, that attention which is so full that the I disappears, is required of me. I have to deprive all that I call I of the light of my attention and turn it on what cannot be conceived. Or as Dogen would say, think non-thinking. So I just want to offer one more thing for this week of practice. It seems like there's a lot of sitting in Rohatsu. That's the bonus. And this happens, it's maybe more likely to happen during Rohatsu, but it happens for me any given sit, it can happen. I sit twice a week with my COVID friends who are in Washington State, and they are Shohaku's students, so their periods of sitting are 50 minutes, 50. And that is still long for me. I've been doing it for 5 years now, and it's still daunting, 50 minutes. So sometimes it comes up for me during that stretch, but it can happen anytime. And what I'm talking about is when, the mind and body are finished sitting before the bell rings, before the timer goes off. And that usually happens, like within the last minute, but you don't know it because and it's excruciating. And you everything gets really, really large. And you start thinking, the dawn fell asleep. He's a masochist. He's trying to play with us. The battery died in the clock. I've entered the world of Sart. There's no exit. It's hard. It's hard. But I have discovered that it is a very, 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 maybe the most rich moment of practice. And I have taken to practicing dying in that moment. Not that I know how to do that because I've never died. And it's not done, it's nothing that you think about. But however I do it, I just die. I just give myself completely over. And what I notice comes up is this great love for the fact of being alive. And what a miracle it is that for this brief time, and only once, here we are with the squirrels and the trees and the sky and the universe. And then the bell rings. So I just offer that to you. Where's the clock? Okay, I have time. I am in, I'm in a poetry group of 2. And we read one poem every month. And this was entirely coincidental. But as I studied, or just, read repeatedly this poem over the last month, I kept thinking more and more, this poem is about Zazen. It has nothing to do with Zazen. I mean, there's a lot of Zazen in this. So I'm going to read it to you. And, just see if you hear the Zazen in it. It's by Louise Glick. She's been dead a year or 2 now. Great poet. And it's called Celestial Music. And I guess I should say there is the word God in it, but it's a lowercase g, in case anyone cares. Celestial music. I have a friend who still believes in heaven. Not a stupid person. Yet with all she knows, she literally talks to God. She thinks someone listens in heaven. On earth, she's unusually competent. Brave, too. Able to face unpleasantness. We found a caterpillar dying in the dirt, greedy ants crawling over it. I'm always moved by weakness, by disaster, always eager to oppose vitality, but timid also, quick to shut my eyes. Whereas my friend was able to watch, to let events play out according to nature. For my sake, she intervened, brushing a few ants off the torn thing and set it down across the road. My friend says I shut my eyes to God. that nothing else explains my aversion to reality. She says, I'm like the child who buries her head in the pillow so as not to see. The child who tells herself that light causes sadness. My friend is like the mother, patient, urging me to wake up an adult like herself, a courageous person. In my dreams, my friend reproaches me. We're walking on the same road, except it's winter now. She's telling me that when you love the world, you hear celestial music. Look up, she says. When I look up, nothing. Only clouds, snow, a white busyness in the trees, like brides leaping to a great height. Then I'm afraid for her. I see her caught in a net, deliberately cast over the earth. In reality, we sit by the side of the road, watching the sun set. From time to time, the silence pierced by a bird call. It's this moment we're both trying to explain. The fact that we're at ease with death, with solitude. My friend draws a circle in the dirt. Inside, the caterpillar doesn't move. She's always trying to make something whole, something beautiful, an image capable of life apart from her. We're very quiet. It's peaceful sitting here, not speaking, the composition fixed, the road turning suddenly dark, the air going cool, here and there rocks shining and glittering. It's this stillness that we both love. The love of form is the love of endings. Thank you. So now is Andy Reid always says, the time is yours.
And thank you for that.
Thank you.
You said something early on that's probably going to fly right out of my head when I try to say it. It's something like the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas practice through us. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
That is actually from the Dogen, the fascicle on continuous practice, that practice being continuous, before we were born, after we die. We are all a slurry of aggregates. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, not here, but here. You know, the practice just is. They are practicing through us. We are practicing through them, I guess.
Except that it felt so right. You know,
Part of the support.
And you know, that's one of the things that I love about Rohatsu, is that you can really feel the support of the Sangha, the ones who aren't there. You can really feel them supporting and holding you up. The other thing I really like about it is you get up early in the morning, and it's in December, so you get up early in the morning and it's dark. And you're in here, and then at night, it's dark again when you leave. And it forms this container that by the end of the week, in a place that you don't usually go. I shouldn't say.
So those of you listening online maybe couldn't hear Rosemary recap the experience of being in Rohatsu and feeling the support of the Sangha during that week of practice, and just that experience of arriving in the morning when it's dark and leaving at night when it's dark, and that container, that whole container, very physical, that forms around practitioners. That is ours this week. It's all of ours. It's not just those in the building. Thank you, Rosemary.
Anne, thank you for your talk. Every time you speak here, you always have, I'm like, at the end of your talk, I'm like, wow, there's an awful lot of material here that is very rich. But there was a particular line about your talk, I suppose, where you said something that just struck me and it stays with me. And that is that will is not for internal work. And that really resonates. It's like, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. Really taking that in. So,
Carol referred to the line from Simone Weil, the will is not for internal work. Yeah. So,
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
yes.
I think you said something like the squirrel and the skies and all the people in the building and online and all the people who are not in Rohatsu are all in continuous practice. And what you do matters. And I just wonder if you would be willing to talk a little bit more about that.
About
Well, the what you do matters seemed like a pointed.
Well, I can only speak from my own experience. And I think that I was slow, rugged individualist. That I am deeply conditioned to be. I have been a long time coming to the notion that what I do matters. And I live alone. And to me, that means bringing, it's the very small practice of bringing my attention to what I do, to noticing the temperature of the doorknob, to noticing that stalk of celery, to noticing the sound of the knife hitting the board, to noticing, the weight of my toothbrush, to just many times during the day tuning in. And it's many times because I'm imperfect. And 99% of my day is spent not noticing. And I return. So it's about returning. And the reason attention, the reason, I don't know if it's a reason, but attention matters to me because of the desire I have for interconnection, the desire I have to live with a consciousness of my interconnection. Now, that is going to show up, it seems to me, in different ways for different people. What my doing mattering to the world is certainly different from yours, from Steve's, from my nephews who still serve in the army. But we can't live pretending that it's the little self. Anything else? Steve?
The ambiguous nature of the hands, you talk about supplication, it's literally, I think under folds, it might be this. It might be something like this, supplication, but we're not, when we supplicate, we're not manipulating. And thinking about the whale has no hands, but the whale has these ears and so the whale is, by virtue of having no hands, can't do AI. And what a blessing. So I'm sitting there clattering on my computer with my fingers. I can't, I guess I can supplicate. I do supplicate with this. But the others die from being too busy. I maintain continuity. And that's hungry. So this death into transcendence and continuity and maintain and contain holding.
I hope you could hear Steve online. Okay, good, good. Thank you. Yes, yes.
So when you say what we do matters, it makes me think of diversity. I put a lot of appreciation in diversity. Each one of us is very unique. And so there's a reason for that. And it's a beautiful reason. I think what each of us brings from whatever place we're in adds to the diversity and beauty and strength that we create. I like to think of each of us as kind of a detail, a beautiful detail in a grand work of art. And we have to remember that that's what we are. And thank you for doing that.
Could you hear tell me your name.
Barbara.
Barbara, could you hear Barbara? Yes, sounds like a little bit. She was singing the virtues of diversity. And yes, I can't see your name. Rebecca.
I was really struck by the part you said, like you go into Zazen striving, and how do we not have that kind of sense of pushing and striving? You know, it's kind of almost like a fighting energy. And there's that kind of an undercurrent in a lot of things I do on a daily basis, kind of pushing. So I've been working with that. And one of the things that's been helpful to me is several weeks ago, we had a talk where it was a chant. I think it was the Grassroots Hermitage. I might be wrong, but the line that stuck out from that for me was let go of 5,000 years and relax completely. And so when I find myself in that position of striving, and I'm trying to look at how can I do what is in front of me to do, to just be fully present, but to not strive, that phrase is not.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's a great note to end on. Rebecca thought of what came to mind in her efforts to, or her experience of feeling the striving, not only in coming to the cushion, but in everything, in so many things she does. What has come to mind is that line from the Grassroot, Song of the Grassroot Hermitage, to let go of 1,000 years of, what is it, 1,000 years of,
And relax completely.
we'll let go of 1,000 years, I thought it was of something, and relax, let go of 1,000 years and relax completely. That's perfect.
I should get 5,000 years.
5,000. 70 culpas. All right. We are way out of time. Thank you.